Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. I'm a social connections coach for the late diagnosed autistic adult. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you replace harmful patterns with new possibilities. In each episode, we'll explore topics that inspire you to be yourself, live your truth, and make lasting connections. In this episode, we're going to talk about social cues and why it feels really impossible to catch them. And it's not such a bad thing, really. But if you'd like to learn how to catch some social cues or what you might be missing, this podcast episode is for you. Are you ready? Let's go. Read the room, right? Can you just read the room? Can you understand what everybody else is feeling and thinking? And can you pick up on cues? Because clearly whatever you said was not the right time to say it. It was inappropriate. The way you said it. Ugh, right? Have you ever had that happen to you? Have you heard that? Yeah, I get it. I've been hearing that many times. And because I've heard it so many times when I was a kid, I would just stop talking. Like, I didn't want to deal with people's unpleasant emotions. I didn't want to deal with the fact that I upset people. I didn't want to deal with being disliked. So I just stopped talking. But the thing is that I really wanted to understand what was going on. Like, what are these cues people are talking about? And I was so bold to ask, specifically on connecting with people, how to make friends. How do you make friends? How do you do that? And so many people didn't have an answer for me. In fact, that was the weirdest thing that I could ask, because you just do. Neurotypical people or people with great social skills, they just make friends. And for some reason, they lack the ability to explain what these cues are or how they exactly go about making friends. Because my mind says that there's a formula to do everything. There's a method in which we get a predictable result. It's repeatable. And look, you person who is making friends and had these great social skills, you were doing it. Explain it to me now. Explain it to me now. Tell me what you did. And nobody really could. The people that I've run into, they just couldn't explain. They didn't have the time or weren't interested. They lacked the ability to explain it in a manner in which I could understand. But they somehow knew that the cue was there. They somehow knew. Blew my mind. Blows my mind still. Blows my mind. What are you looking for? How do you know that you're supposed to respond in the way that you respond? And if you are wanting to connect and you're autistic and you're wanting to connect with people, you're going to be looking for those social cues that people have talked about, right? You're going to look for when to say what, how to say it. And you're going to be doing it all by yourself. And see, the thing about this is that it's so difficult to do because you don't even know what you're looking for. You're just kind of guessing. Like I did so much. I just guessed. But I found it was just easier to just be quiet and only speak when I'm spoken to, because then I knew that they were looking for some specific piece of information. And I'll tell you what, even when people ask me questions, I had to laugh at this because I got it wrong too. I gave them the specific answer to the question, why are you doing that? Because I'm looking for X, Y, Z. What they really were saying was something kind of shaming. Why don't you wear makeup? Or why don't you cut your hair? Or why are you wearing those kinds of clothing? Like, well, I'm wearing them because I like them. I'm not wearing makeup because I don't like it. Things like that. Just give them a straight out answer, and it's not what they were looking for. Wrong. So these social cues are so weird. They're so nuanced. They're nuanced, right? And if you want to connect with people, you want them to feel comfortable, right? That's what connection is. It's this demonstration that you understand how they feel about their experiences. You connect with them in that way. And if they are giving you social cues, they're demonstrating that they feel some kind of way, and you miss it because you don't know what the cue is. They don't say it directly like you might prefer, like I prefer, but they'll give you a cue. They'll frown. They'll raise their eyebrow. They'll say something offhand. They'll ask a question that seems weird or confusing or just out of the ordinary, out of pocket, or not in line with the conversation context. If you can catch that and you can demonstrate that you understand what they're talking about, then you can make that connection. So that's what I think about when I talk about social cues. When we're talking about social cues, we want people to feel comfortable with us. We want that connection, and we want to get it right. We want to get it right. If you do things like not talk, you are not going to connect with them. You're not going to be able to connect with them because they also need to know how you feel about your experiences. You also need to be able to talk back to them, and they have to understand you. That's the connection. That's empathy. It's emotional awareness. And I don't believe it's something that we lack. It's something that we have to connect with people on, where we have to understand more about ourselves and express that to other people. So what I want to say is that social cues are the way to go about that. Because many people aren't going to tell you. Many people don't even notice they have the social cues. They can't even explain to you what they're doing. And they feel kind of awkward explaining things outright. I personally wish people would say things more directly outright, but that's just not something that happens often. Everyone doesn't speak the way I speak, and that's okay. And so other people drop cues and they don't convey information the way you would, and that's okay. Our purpose here is to bridge that gap with catching those cues, with catching the cues. Now, as an autistic person, you might hear this and you might think, oh man, I'm overwhelmed already. It's too much. It's too much, because you're looking to get it right. You're looking for that exact link to connect. You're looking for a way to make sure that you understand them perfectly and they understand you perfectly, right? And you're thinking processing is basically late diagnosed. It means perhaps you've been going through life and not even noticed these symptoms, tried to stay out of the limelight, trying not to be seen, trying not to be heard, masking as much as you can, doing all of those things, and still just kind of copying what other people do. And to get to that point, you had to process a lot. You had to look at these cues yourself and decide what they meant. And these cues, you're looking for and processing how they said the thing that they said. Was it loud? Was it soft? Was it fast? What's the context of the conversation? Right? You're looking for the tone of their voice. You're trying to process all of that in an instant, because you want to stay in the conversation, in an instant to formulate a result that fits correctly to what they are saying or what they are looking for to advance the conversation. And then you also have to think about the direction of the conversation. Where is it supposed to go? What do you think they want to hear? Those kind of things. You're processing and processing and processing. And while you're processing, the catch-22 is that you're going to miss other cues that have been out there. And you're also going to disconnect yourself from the conversation. When you go inside your head thinking about, what should I say? How do I say it? Am I saying it right? Is this the right thing to say? Did they want to hear this? And you go away into your head and you process for many seconds. It removes you from them. But I get it. You're trying to read the room. You don't know if you are going to say the right thing, how they're going to respond. You're trying to make sure that it lands correctly. And that just processes and processes and processes, and it moves you away from the conversation. So what I wanted to talk about today was giving you a few of these social cues to look for that shows that you are processing a little too much. You're processing a little too much and you're moving away from the conversation. And the reason why I want to start here with moving away from the conversation, processing too much, moving away from the conversation, is because Unless you have somebody coaching you and teaching you exactly what social cues you're looking for in real time in conversations, you're likely to miss them. And you're going to miss them even more if you're processing and processing and processing. You won't even get a chance to practice responding because you're processing so much. So what I want to do is drop a couple social cues while you're in this processing mode, thinking, did I say too much? Did I do something wrong? I'm going to pull you out of that so you can get back into the conversation and continue trying to connect. Because it really is trial and error. It really is trial and error for the most part, unless you have somebody talking to you, teaching you, telling you. Unless the person in front of you is completely aware of themselves and what they're looking for and can express themselves in a way that makes sense to you, it's going to be hit and miss. You have to practice, okay? So 3 social cues that I want you to look out for. 1, when someone starts looking at their phone more than you. Now, for me personally, when I'm having a conversation with someone, I like to be able to not look at my phone. I put my phone away because I want their full attention. It's partly because I want to show them respect. I want to show them that I care and I'm very interested in what they have to say. But also, I process so much that I cannot handle looking at something else and trying to talk to them too. It's not possible for me. And I firmly believe that multitasking isn't possible for other people. We just kind of half hear people. We do 2 things that are just out of alignment. We're trying to do something at once. Just focus on the one task. So if you see somebody pulling out your phone or pulling out their phone, then they might be starting to disconnect from you. The second thing is that when their answers get shorter, when they get okay, yeah, you might be talking a little too much about something that they're not interested in. You might be spending a little bit too much time disconnected away from them. So when their answers get shorter, just watch for that. And you're going to notice these things because you have superior pattern recognition. You're going to be able to notice if their conversation or if their interest has faded, essentially with shorter responses. Like, I'm not just talking about when you're saying something and they're like, right in the middle, like they're showing you that they're interested in you. I'm talking about after you've completed an entire thought and they go, yep, yeah. That's something to notice. The third thing is when they stop asking questions back. So when you say something, when you share something interesting and exciting to you, you're looking for someone to be curious about what you're sharing with them. If they are not doing that, if they're not asking questions back, it seems that they've started to disconnect. Now, with these 3 things, when someone starts looking at their phone, the answers get shorter, they stop asking questions back, then I want you to notice. Just notice these things about the person that you're talking to. Notice. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong or bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't get it right. There could be something going on with them, but it's a cue to slow down. It's a cue to check in. It's a cue to notice what's going on with them. So what I want to suggest that you do is check in with them. If you're thinking, did I do something wrong? Check in occasionally, okay? Not constantly. Am I talking too much? Like, you don't need to say that every few sentences in this conversation, because that's going to disconnect you as well. You're thinking about yourself and you're thinking about yourself being a burden. And eventually, by the 4th, 5th time you've asked them in your 2-minute conversation, they are going to feel like they are burdened because they're constantly having to reassure you. But only when you see those cues, you can check in. The second thing I want you to do is when you see these cues and you check in, believe them when they respond to you. Okay? Believe them the first time that they respond to you and they say, no, I'm really interested. and then you're watching for these cues. You're watching if they start looking at their phone. If you continue talking, they start looking at their phone. Their answers get shorter. Or if they stop asking questions back, that means they're engaged. They don't seem to be as interested. They're disengaged, rather. They don't seem to be as interested as they said they were. You can just check in again. Check in again. Are you sure? Okay. Right? Keep noticing. Keep learning. What I like to do is tell people, give them 3 times. 3 times, that's it. 3 times. All right, I checked in with you. First time you said you're very interested, although it seems like you're not as engaged in the conversation. All right, then I'll continue talking, or I'll ask you a question and I'll see if we can make the conversation a little more engaging. If you still show me that you're disengaging with me by looking at your phone, your answer is getting shorter, or you're not asking questions back, then I'm going to check in with you again. I'm going to check in with you again and see, maybe you want to change the topic. Maybe you want to change the topic or something. Maybe they want to change the topic, but I'm going to check in with them. I'm going to believe them. And then the 3rd time it happens, I'm going to believe myself in the pattern that I noticed. If they don't seem engaged, they don't seem interested, then I'm going to let that go. It's okay. It might be just them today. It might be that they're completely not interested. They don't know how to say it to you. They don't know how to say anything to you. But it's up to you to notice. It's up to you to notice these social cues. This alone has changed the way I interact with people. Because when I leave these kinds of conversations, when I've noticed that it's a pattern, and I've noticed I've checked in, I acknowledged my behavior, and I've checked in with them, and they said, no, it's not a big deal. I love what you're talking about, and such, and they go back into that pattern of being disconnected, then I'm not going to walk away feeling like there's something that I've done wrong, because I've noticed, and I've given them an opportunity to communicate with me clearly what their needs, wants, and desires are, and they're unable to, or they don't have a desire to, then I can let it go, because I gave them an opportunity. I didn't do anything wrong. I gave them plenty of time to open up, to speak, to tell me what their needs were as far as the conversation goes. And I don't leave feeling like I missed something, I did something wrong. I just leave thinking that I just wasn't the right person for them, or maybe they just don't know how to connect with me. It's not my fault. I've made an effort. So it has changed my life. So if you go out there and you try this, let me know how it works out for you. Watch out for these patterns, all right? You can do it. Hey, Patterns of Possibility fam. I want to thank you so much for all of your positive feedback for the Supportive Connections course. The outpouring is just ridiculous. If you haven't heard about this, I dropped it a couple of months ago on my website, patternsofpossibility.com. Just click resources to get instant access to the free Supportive Connections course. You're going to learn exactly what you need to create healthy, supportive relationships. Because a lot of us, if you grew up in a household which you didn't see healthy connections, you were trying to figure it out all by yourself, you might not know what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship. This is for you if you find it difficult to communicate your own needs, or you feel like you always have unmet expectations in your relationships. If you struggle to recognize toxic behaviors, or you keep tolerating disrespect, manipulation, or control, this is for you. And it's free. Go to patternsofpossibility.com, click on resources, and get instant access to this free Supportive Connections course today. Now let's do the listener letters. If you have a question about your family, friends, business, coworkers, anything that goes on with your relationships, you can write me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. This one says, why is it so hard to make friends? I struggle so much to connect with people, and I'm really scared I might never get to experience a real deep friendship. I keep worrying that it might just never happen for me. I've always found it hard to hold conversations and not to come across as weird, and I feel like masking plays a big part in that. It often feels like I'm not even trying, but deep down I know I'm doing my best. It's just really hard. Listen, I don't blame you. This whole podcast episode was about that. This whole podcast itself is about making friends, being autistic, making friends. This person is autistic with ADHD. So ADHD, that's a struggle in itself. That's a challenge in itself. A little bit about an ADHD. I also have it, and I realize that there is a conflict between wanting rigid rigid structure with autism, rigid structure, routine, and ADHD says, fuck all that. I want to do something that is spontaneous and outlandish, and it makes it hard to hold on to that routine that I crave and desire so much. So I understand. I get it. But the point of this is that it's difficult to connect with people if you don't know what the connection points are. And so being weird, whatever the thing is I see here that you don't want to come across as weird, well, the people that you want to connect with, or the people that really understand you, aren't going to see you as weird. They're just going to get why you say what you say and how you do what you do, your mannerisms. And I can tell you the secret is not necessarily finding other ADHD people. It's not necessarily in finding those people. Yes, you may have some things in common, but your special interests may be completely different. And you might be annoyed at some of their habits and their patterns of behavior. Just because they're ADHD or autistic doesn't mean that you're going to connect with them in a way that feels good to you. It still might not feel safe to unmask. You might have difficulty appreciating what they appreciate. And so that's not the key. It's really not. There are people out there who will understand, appreciate, and accept you, and although you may want to gravitate to the autistic folk and say that they will understand they're likely to understand your experiences, yes, but there are other key pieces that you need to consider. So what I'd like you to do, or what I would suggest, is going to meet more people, right? Like, oh no, Lee, I get exhausted when I'm talking to people and processing and thinking and stuff like that. Yes. I do understand that. I do understand. But there are 8 million people, 8 billion with a B, people out there to practice with, to try unmasking with. And what I teach people is a technique to unmask. And the key is really not to just take your whole mask off and show everybody what's underneath. That's not what's going to connect people with you, because people just can't get it. They don't understand it. The light in your face, the light in your eyes is really just too bright. Something along those lines. And they're just going to run away, or they're not going to be interested. And you're going to feel like you are a failure, or that you've been, you're weird, and they're running away from your weirdness. And look at you, you did it again. So when you're unmasking, you just don't rip your mask off. But I teach a technique that allows you to just kind of give people a peek underneath your mask. And it's all done through conversation. It's all done through conversation, because we're all connecting with our words, with our actions and our experiences. We share our experiences through words. And if they resonate with the other person, then they respond in a way that we understand and we appreciate, and we feel good about that. Right? So it's about what you say. It's about what you talk about. And if you keep trying to hold conversations that aren't weird, the way the universe works, as I understand it, for any of those who are into the universe and some of those laws of the universe, the things that you focus on will be exactly what you get. So if you're trying to not be weird, because your brain can just not focus, will not hear the word not. It will just focus on the thing, the feeling weird. You're trying not to be weird. You are going to be weird. You're going to continuously attract people that are going to think you're weird, and you're not going to be able to connect with those people. So there's so many layers to this, and moving out of this, breaking this pattern of finding the wrong people. If you're struggling to connect with the right people, and you're scared you never might experience a real deep connection, you have to go talk to more people, and you have to try different things in those connections, right? Stop thinking that you're weird, because then those people will think you're weird. Think that you're calm. Think that you're great. Think that you love the things that you love, and if people don't love them, then that's okay. They can go on with their life. Pay attention to those social cues of the fact that you're coming across in a way that is not interesting to them, and then move on. Boom. Now, I know it's easier said than done. It's taking me years to practice this and feel comfortable in my skin, feel okay with rejection, because we also have that rejection sensitivity dysphoria. A lot of us have that from being told that we are weird from the very beginning, right? But this is the key. This is the way. If you want to connect with other people, you definitely have to be yourself and be okay with responding to people's reactions, or how people are going to respond to you. You're going to be okay with it. You're not going to take it to heart. You're not going to change yourself, because changing yourself to trying to adjust with them is weird energy. They're going to pick up on that, and they're just going to move away, and you're going to feel like you'll never be able to experience a real deep friendship, because you're not going deep. You're not showing people who you really are, right? And it's not to say, again, that you rip off your mask and you show them everything underneath, because some people can't handle that. They're not ready for that. But you're intentional about giving them a peek and showing a little bit of who you are. Watching for those cues again, and then making that connection. I hope that this helps. Best of luck to you. And finally, I appreciate you being a listener. If you got something of value out of this podcast, please share it with other people and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening app. We'll see you next time. Take care.